Greetings, Uncle Travelling Matt here, reporting at the end of another day here in India, and it's been a lovely day. Today though, not a lot to report because what I've done is basically watched England in a test match in the most beautiful stadium on the planet. And that's about it. I woke up, so I was going to get a taxi, right, at 8:30. He was meant to come to my hotel, never did turn up. So at 8:45 I hailed another taxi, went down there, got my ticket prepared the day before, and then it was like trying to find the gate, not clear, nothing's very well signposted here. Got in the wrong queue, then finally got in the right queue, which was massively long, didn't get into the ground until about 10-15 minutes after it started at 9:30, but hadn't missed a lot, and England started really well. And we were looking maybe 300-400 score until it all collapsed, and they were all out for about 2:18, and then India have been really good, and I can't see anything but an India win from this game. But do you know what? It doesn't matter, because it was a fantastic day of cricket. I got to see two of the best teams in the world perform, and the setting, like, oh my god, it's you've got to be in the stadium to believe it. Obviously, I'd seen the stadium from outside before, and I've seen pictures, but when you're there, those mountains that are actually miles and miles away, they seem on top of you, and they are huge. Like, they're the Himalayas, they're the biggest mountains in the world. They are ridiculously big, and you've got this gorgeous stadium with this traditional style architecture, and then that as a backdrop. And it's wonderful, and it was probably around 3/4 full at one stage, perhaps. So there was quite a good atmosphere. Massive contingent of England fans. There's going to be 5,000 here, 20-odd thousand seated stadium. So certainly at the beginning, I would say there were probably more England fans than Indians. Indians tend to turn up late for these things. Yeah, just wonderful atmosphere. I got chatting to two gents. One was called Sachin, like Sachin Tendulkar, and he lives in Leeds, I think, or somewhere in West Yorkshire. But he didn't stick around for long, and he was with the other guy who was called Will, I think. God, I have to get better with names. And he's from down in between London and the South Coast somewhere. And basically, like, he's on a backpacking trip around India. He's just finished reading International Development at Reading. Had taken a bit of a year out before he decides what he's going to do with his life. He had thought about joining the army, but didn't get into Sandhurst. So he's now looking at something else, perhaps working for an NGO or that. And we just spent a lot of time chatting. He likes cricket, but it's an interest that's been kind of reignited in the past couple of years, and so, you know, he had some basic cricket questions to ask, and I think it's nice to be able to ask those questions and not feel stupid, and you know, I mean, look, I've been following it for years, and there's loads I don't know. I mean, I couldn't tell you fielding positions even now, but it was just wonderful conversation, wonderful, and for most of the game, you know, a fairly close test match. I mean, the Indians ran away with it at the end for the last hour or two, a bit depressing, but you know, it was just great, and a great atmosphere, and what an honour to be involved in there. So, and that's all I've done today. Popped out on the way back, and spoke to a chap, actually, an Indian chap on the way out, and he was telling me that the Himachal Pradesh Cricket Board, which owned that stadium, the sports minister is from there, and also the head of the IPL from there, and that's why it's got funding. It is quite a new stadium, and it's weird because in some ways it's a wonderful stadium and the design is nice, and like the toilets, right, they are literally like hotel toilets. Like, I've never seen such nice toilets in a stadium. As Will said, he said I felt I could lie down on this floor, which you never ever feel like you can do in stadium toilets at all. But then outside the toilets, underneath, like, there were like bags of cement and construction equipment, like they hadn't really finished the job. And there was, you're not allowed to bring bottles in, but they don't sell bottled water. They've got a little thing with tiny little cups, literally the size of this, where you can take bits of water. But, you're sitting there in the heat all day. So they hadn't thought that through, right? And get this. So you go up to the stadium, you go up the steps, and then when you get there, there's no gangway to walk along. It's just chairs, and you have to climb over chairs to get to the gangway. So it's brilliant in some ways, and just not thought out in the others. Like, when we were going, there was a big traffic jam when we were leaving because nobody remembered to open the gates to let the spectators out. So wonderful in some ways, and just a bit not thought out in others. And I guess that's Indian cricket, right? He was saying that it is the richest cricket board in the world, the BCCI. He said, and they all get a lot of money, and it disappears into the black hole, and we don't know where it goes. And I said, this sports minister, which party is he? He's BJP. The BJP control every state cricket board in India, and they control the majority of the BCCI, and the money just disappears into the black hole. But then we're Congress any better? Probably not, when they were doing the same. I don't know. On the way out, I spied, coming in and out before, a tank and a plane by the side of the road. So I thought I'd have a closer look at them. And it's a memorial to the Indian Army, the Himachal Pradesh Memorial to the Indian Army. There does seem to be a bit of a military feel to this town. Like, all the taxis are in the ex-servicemen's taxi drivers union. So I guess a lot of military guys retire here. And thinking about Indian history, a lot of their conflicts, the ones with Pakistan, the ones with China, have been in mountainous areas. And so, and they do have a regiment of Gurkhas, as we do from the kind of Nepali community, and of course the Sikhs as well, who are in nearby Punjab. But this is the State War Memorial, so there was a tank, not quite sure what sort it was, I need to ask my cousin who drives and what sort of tank it is. There was a couple of field guns that looked like the ones the British used in World War II. There was a plane called a Nat, and apparently it was very good at shooting down Pakistani sabres, and that one shot down 2 before it was shot down itself. And there was a destroyed Pakistani tank there. There was a model of like a submarine that was falling apart, and then there was this big war memorial with all the names of the soldiers that had died. So many wars. The big one was the 71 war with Pakistan, which was of course mostly helping the rebels in Bengal who established the state of Bangladesh, and I read a novel about that recently. But at the same time, there were actions on the other frontier in Punjab with Pakistan, and there's been the continuing thing going on in Kashmir, so that it just flared up time and time again. And then there was a war in 1965 with the Chinese, and I'm not quite sure what happened there, like who won that. I guess it was a no-score draw, or the Chinese won, because there is a disputed territory area. Interestingly, when I was in China in 2002, went to a place called Ningxia, and in there, when I looked at it on Google Earth, it was a big military site. Obviously, I never saw because it's a military site. But what they've done is they've created this contour map. It's like the size of about 10 football fields, of all the Himalayas around the Indian-Chinese border. And its pilots walk around this contour map so they recognise the valleys if there's ever another conflict with India. So there we are. So yeah, so I haven't seen a little bit of that conflict from both sides because I never saw the thing in China, but it was literally, I was right next to it and didn't realise it at the time. And And on the list, there was like Operation this and Operation that. Never heard of anyone. I need to research some of them. But there was one in Sri Lanka, and I was wondering what the Indian Army was doing in Sri Lanka because I never realised they did anything there. But anyway, that's that. End of today. Not a lot else to report, except it's been wonderful. And I'm at the cricket tomorrow, and then after that, it's back to Delhi and home. So the end is nigh. Keep travelling.